Drop the tongs and step away from the grill now. A voice bellowed, drowning out the sizzle of ribs on the barbecue. I, Matt Harper, froze, tongs in my left hand, a charred burger in my right. I blinked, my mind reeling. Sorry, what did you say? I asked, voice calm but heart pounding like it wanted to break free. In front of me, a police officer blocked the path, hand on his holster, eyes sharp under his hat's brim. Behind him, 5 more patrol cars rolled into the backyard of Willow Creek Ranch, red and blue lights flashing, turning the Texas sunset into a bizarre dance floor. A helicopter roared overhead, its spotlight sweeping across my 20-acre field like flies buzzing over a honey jar. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video. I turned to the crowd. The barbecue party at Cedar Hollow, a quiet San Antonio suburb, was like someone hit the pause button. Kids stood rooted, popsicles dripping. Adults froze, beer mugs hovering midair. Clara clutched Ben, her eyes panicked. Ethan, my eldest, fresh from the Marines, stood by the hay bale stage, dress uniform crisp but face rigid with anger. Smoke rose, the stench of burnt ribs mingling with the breeze, like a warning of a silent war brewing. Then a shrill voice cut through, sharp as a fire truck siren. Violation of HOA Regulation 52-4C. Unapproved gathering. I spun around. Diane Mitchell, HOA president, stood there, towering like a dictator, neon orange blazer glaring, blonde hair puffed like a beehive, one hand gripping a walkie-talkie, the other snapping photos like I was a wanted criminal. She smirked, a smug grin. I wanted to chuck the burger at her face. I tried to stay calm. This is my private property, Willow Creek Ranch. We're hosting a welcome home party for my son, just back from the Marines. The crowd murmured, a few clapped, and an old lady from First Light Church shouted, "Leave their family alone." But Diane didn't budge. She jabbed a finger at me, yelling, "Arrest him." The officers glanced at each other. A young one stepped back, hand off his holster. Clara gripped Ben's shoulder, the boy trembling. Ethan moved forward, ready, but I raised a hand to stop him. The air was thick. Only the grill's crackle and the distant chopper's hum broke the silence. Then, like a knife slicing through the tension, a deep voice boomed, "Touch this man, and you'll answer to me." Every eye turned. Roy Tanner, former sheriff who once saved the town from a flood, stepped from the crowd. Leather jacket, cowboy hat, eyes like steel. No badge or uniform, but Roy carried undeniable authority. He strode over, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You okay, Matt?" I nodded, swallowing my rage. Roy faced the officers, voice like a command. "Which one of you got called out because a man's grilling burgers on his own land?" A young officer mumbled something about unapproved gathering. Roy pointed at the fire extinguisher, the trim lawn, the open field. "Fire hazard? Where?" "This is a family party, not Coachella." The crowd laughed, but Diane didn't join them. Her face flushed red, eyes narrowed with venom, voice hissing. "This ranch is under HOA." Roy, the burly, tough neighbor, didn't even glance at her. He just tilted his head, voice icy. "Willow Creek's been here since 1875, before you showed up in Texas. If you've got HOA papers binding it, show them. Otherwise, step back." Those words hit Diane like a slap. The lead officer muttered an apology, backing off, signaling the cars to leave. The lights dimmed, and the chopper faded into the dark. Diane, lips tight with fury, snarled into her walkie-talkie, "This isn't over, Harper." Then she turned, her orange outfit melting into the night like a fading ghost. I stood there, staring at the charred ribs on the grill. Smoke still curled up, like remnants of a battle past. The welcome party for Ethan, meant to be a warm reunion, a day to share and heal, now reeked of burnt meat and shadows. Everything had shifted too fast, drowned in absurd rules, and the tyrannical power Diane Mitchell tried to wield. But to say I was shocked by what just happened, that'd be a lie. 3 months earlier, Cedar Hollow was still peaceful, or at least I wanted to believe it was. After 12 years in the military, I returned with my wife and kids, carrying a simple dream, to live quiet days, free of gunfire, orders, or sacrifice. Willow Creek, the ranch my grandfather built in 1875, still stood, proud amid vast fields. To me, it wasn't just land. It was the soul of our family, the dream I carried through years away from home. I'd pictured a hopeful future, days working under the sun, the sound of hooves in the old wooden barn, dinners gathered under golden lamplight, and calm afternoons by the lake with Clara. I imagined teaching Ben to tend chickens, to hear the land breathe when planting seeds. Everything seemed set for a fresh start. But then Diane arrived and brought a wholly different reality. From the moment she stepped in, so-called planning, standardization, and community elevation began to ensnare Willow Creek like an invisible net. And from then, my dream started cracking, piece by piece. Right when Diane appeared, I knew life in Cedar Hollow wasn't the same anymore. She wasn't just a woman with unreasonable demands. She was a power-hungry control freak. Small things like how I built my fence or kept chickens became massive issues, blown out of proportion and tied to rules she invented. I never imagined returning home could turn into a war, but now I understood. This war had started long ago, and I'd have to face it, whether I wanted to or not. It all began with the fence. I built it myself, sturdy wood carved with Harper on the straight beams, topped with a small metal eagle, a symbol of the Texas spirit I cherished. I thought nothing would come of it, but one morning, I woke to find the fence smashed. Under the splintered wood was a glaring red note. HOA violation 2A, non-compliant fence. Willow Creek had never signed anything with the Homeowners Association, HOA, yet Diane, this woman, seemed to grant herself limitless power. With the demeanor of a retired bank CEO, she was determined to turn Cedar Hollow into a glossy, uniform neighborhood. She imposed absurd rules, from roof colors to the number of trees in a yard, all following her rigid standards. I still remember bringing a jar of Clara's strawberry jam to her house to make peace, but her look was like I'd brought manure to a fancy cocktail party. That moment unsettled me, but it also pushed me to act. The weeks that followed dragged on in tension and exhaustion. Warning notices kept coming. I was fined for mowing dust, scolded for unsanitary chickens, and red violation letters plastered on my door grew thicker by the day. Every time I opened the door, I faced the cold stare of Diane's rules. Evelyn Carter, the elderly neighbor who'd lived in Cedar Hollow her whole life, saw it all and looked at me with sympathy. She sighed and said, "She promises better roads and higher land values, but she'll just chain everyone to her nonsense rules." Then one day, sitting in the garden, an idea struck. The great news that Ethan, my son, was returning after 3 years in the Marines made me want to do something special for him and for Cedar Hollow. I thought of Willow Creek, where I'd found peace after my military years. With its wildflower fields, creaky barn, and white wooden house smelling of pine, it was the perfect place for a real party, where people could forget their stresses and enjoy the warmth and camaraderie of our small community. I envisioned a day filled with fragrant grilled ribs, country music, ringing laughter, and pure Texas spirit. I sent invitations to close friends, family, veterans, and folks from First Light Church. Clara, my amazing wife, jumped right in. She planned the menu like a master of outdoor feasts. Baked beans, hot cornbread, sweet iced tea. And Ben, our youngest, as always, was full of energy and creativity. He bounced around, insisting on decorating the yard with colorful balloons and a vibrant chalk sign welcoming Ethan. I saw the joy in their eyes, and it felt like, despite the challenges ahead, I still had something worth protecting. All of it made me feel that Willow Creek wasn't just land. It was an inseparable part of our family's story. This would be a chance to start anew, to reconnect not just with loved ones, but with myself, with the life I'd dreamed of. The morning of the party, I woke early, dragging out my grandfather's old grill to the backyard. It was heavy as a tank, but I loved how it cooked ribs evenly, infused with oak and pecan smoke. I mixed our family's secret barbecue sauce, my grandfather's recipe, spicy enough to tingle the tongue. Clara bustled in the kitchen, stirring beans, baking golden cornbread. Ben raced around the yard, tying balloons to the fence, writing, "Welcome home, Ethan," in red and green chalk. "Dad, Ethan's gonna be so surprised, right?" he asked, eyes sparkling. I ruffled his hair, grinning. "You bet, son." Guests started arriving, bringing a festive vibe. Evelyn Carter, the elderly neighbor who knew my grandfather, showed up with a tray of peach cobbler, sharing stories of old Willow Creek BBQs. Troy Bennett, my childhood friend now a reporter for the Cedar Hollow Gazette, brought his camera, promising to capture the best moments. "Matt, this party's gonna make the front page," he winked. Pastor Paul Grayson from First Light Church arrived early, leading a choir group, promising to pray for Ethan. I set up a stage from hay bales for Cousin Nate, a local country musician, ready to strum his guitar and sing Texas ballads. We planned a cornbread eating contest, square dancing, and even some fireworks if the sky darkened enough. The air buzzed with Texas spirit. Texas flags fluttered on the porch, The aroma of grilling ribs wafted, laughter echoed over the hills. I looked at Clara, setting tables with red and white checkered cloths, and felt my heart warm. This wasn't just Ethan's party. It was a statement that Willow Creek was home, the legacy my grandfather built in 1875. No HOA, no Diane, could take that away. But Diane, as expected, wouldn't let me be. The afternoon before the party, I found a letter slipped under the door. Red ink, bold font screaming in my face. Detected unapproved gathering. Cancel immediately or face enforcement action. I held the letter, scanned it, then laughed. Clara, wiping the kitchen table, looked at me, worried. Matt, she's serious. What if Diane calls the cops? I crumpled the letter, tossed it in the trash. This isn't her subdivision backyard, Clara. This is our land. She wants a fight. Let her bring it. I went back to the yard, checking the grill one last time. Ben ran up, tugging my hand. Dad, this grill's gonna make the best ribs, right? I grinned, hoisting him onto my shoulder. You got it, son. So good Diane'll smell it and lose her mind. Clara shook her head, but her lips curved up. I knew she was nervous, but I wasn't backing down. Diane Mitchell could bring an army of cops, but this was Willow Creek, and I was throwing this barbecue, come hell or high water. After tossing the red letter in the trash, I dove into barbecue prep with all my enthusiasm. The morning of the party, Willow Creek Ranch in Cedar Hollow glowed like a Texas festival. The grill smoked with oak wood, ribs sizzling, spicy sauce aroma spreading. Clara set tables with red and white checkered cloths, baked beans, and fragrant cornbread. Ben raced around, tying balloons, his welcome home, Ethan, sign shimmering in the sun. I stood by the grill, tongs in hand, feeling everything was perfect. Diane could send a dozen letters, but this was my land, and today was Ethan's day. The party kicked off as guests poured in. Evelyn Carter brought peach cobbler, sharing old stories. Troy Bennett, Cedar Hollow Gazette reporter, snapped photos nonstop. Pastor Paul Grayson prayed, his deep voice soothing. Cousin Nate strummed his guitar, opening with a country tune that got everyone clapping. Kids chased each other through hay bales, strawberry popsicles dripping. Adults danced on the lawn, boots grass-stained, cold beer mugs clinking. Texas flags waved on the porch, like a declaration of home and freedom. I looked at Clara, beaming by the food table, and Ben, competing in the cornbread contest with his buddies. Just waiting for Ethan. Then he arrived. Ethan walked down the dirt path to the ranch, Marine uniform crisp, smile bright as Texas sun. I ran to him, hugged him tight, tears rolling unchecked. Welcome home, son, I whispered, feeling his heartbeat through the thick fabric. The crowd cheered, a few veterans shouting congratulations. Clara hugged Ethan, Ben bouncing beside them, yelling, Ethan, do you have a real gun? I laughed hard, heart warm. In that moment, all the trouble with Diane vanished. Willow Creek was home, and my family was together. But the joy didn't last. A strange buzz sounded over the grill. I looked up, spotting a drone hovering, camera flashing like an owl's eyes. The crowd murmured, kids pointing. I squinted, seeing Diane Mitchell on the hill near the ranch, orange outfit blazing, controlling the drone like a witch with a wand. She was filming us, like this was a crime of the century. I smirked, waving mockingly. Diane responded, raising a finger, no guess which one. The crowd roared with laughter, some whistling. She won't let up, Matt. Evelyn shouted from the food table. I shrugged, turning back to the grill. Diane wanted to play, fine by me. 5 minutes later, sirens wailed. I turned, and my heart stopped. 6 police cars flooded the backyard, red and blue lights flashing, turning the sunset into a chaotic dance floor. A helicopter roared above, its spotlight sweeping the field like flies hunting honey. Drop the tongs and step away from the grill now, an officer shouted, hand on his holster. I stood stunned, charred burger in hand. Sorry, what did you say? I asked, voice shaky but trying to stay calm. The crowd panicked. Kids cried, popsicles hitting the grass. Adults froze, beer mugs dangling. Clara held Ben, eyes frantic. Ethan stepped forward, shoulders square, eyes sharp as knives. The ribs on the grill burned, smoke rising like a war signal. From behind the police line, Diane emerged, orange outfit glaring, holding a walkie-talkie and camera. He's violating HOA Regulation 52-4C, she screamed. Open fire, an unapproved gathering on restricted land. She pointed at me, grinning like a cat toying with a mouse. I took a deep breath, voice firm. Ma'am, this is private property. Willow Creek Ranch, 20 acres. A party for my son, just back from the Marines. The crowd buzzed, some clapping. Diane's eyes narrowed, shouting, "Arrest him." Now, the officers hesitated, a young one stepping back. The air was taut, waiting for a spark. Then a deep voice rang out. "Touch this man, and you'll answer to me." Roy Tanner, former sheriff, stepped forward, dusty leather jacket, cowboy hat tilted. He strode through the police cars, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You okay, Matt?" I nodded, rage simmering. Diane had gone too far, but with Roy by my side, I knew I wasn't fighting alone. The war for Willow Creek had just begun. After Roy Tanner sent Diane Mitchell and the police packing, the barbecue at Willow Creek Ranch slowly came back to life. Ethan pulled me onto the dance floor, Clara laughed as Ben battled his friends over cornbread, and Cousin Nate strummed his guitar, singing a country tune that shook Cedar Hollow. But I couldn't shake the unease. Diane wasn't one to give up, and her look as she left, like a cat eyeing a mouse, told me it wasn't over. I was right. Just a week later, she upped her game, and this time, it wasn't just red letters or drones. It started when I checked the cattle barn one morning. I usually went to the west field, where my 3 cows liked grazing near the creek. But that day, the barn was empty. The wire fence was cut clean, edges sharp as a razor. My heart raced. I called Ethan, and we scoured the field, flashlights sweeping through dew-soaked grass. Cow tracks led to a trail behind the ranch, then vanished. I clenched my fists, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. This wasn't an accident. Only one person had the time for this. I headed home to call Roy Tanner when Ben ran out, clutching a tablet, eyes wide. "Dad, someone posted our cows online." He opened the screen, and there were my 3 cows, standing behind a shiny new white fence. I recognized the house in the photo, Laura's, Diane's cousin, 2 streets away. I gritted my teeth, blood boiling. Diane didn't just ruin my party. Now she was stealing my livestock. I called Roy, and he arrived in 20 minutes, old leather jacket on, eyes sharp as knives. Roy inspected the cut fence, shaking his head. "This ain't kid stuff, Matt. Someone had tools and a plan." Roy and I went to Laura's. She feigned surprise, claiming the cows wandered to her yard, and she thought they were strays. But when Roy found a pair of wire cutters in her trash and some of my fence wire mixed in, Laura mumbled an apology. She got a hefty fine, and I brought the cows home. Ben bounced with joy, naming them King Beef, Thunder, and Freedom. But I couldn't smile. Diane was behind this, I was sure, and she was playing dirtier than I'd thought. A few days later, another letter arrived, but not Diane's red ink. This one was on yellow paper, stamped officially from Cedar Hollow County. Notice of Eminent Domain Investigation, Development Zone 9B. I nearly dropped the envelope. Inside was a plan for a luxury neighborhood, with a clubhouse, golf course, shopping center, and a man-made lake right on Willow Creek's land. I raced to the county office, heart burning. A nervous clerk showed me the file. The plan came from Silver Oak Developments, submitted last year but stalled because I wouldn't sell. Now they were back, and eminent domain was their way to steal the ranch. I came home, hands still gripping the letter like a racing heartbeat. Clara took it, read fast, then sat slowly, face pale. "Matt, if the county takes the land, we'll have nothing. Maybe we should leave." Her voice broke, eyes on Ben playing on the floor, a mother's fear for her child, not herself. I looked at her, shaking my head firmly. "No, this is our land. It's the blood and bone my grandfather left us, the history of the Harper family. No one, not the county, not Diane, gets to take it." Ethan, leaning by the doorframe, nodded sharply. "I'm not going anywhere. If we need to fight, I'm with you, Dad." But then, from the sofa corner, Ben's voice came, soft as wind over the prairie. "Dad, will they take our cows too?" My heart twisted. I walked over, knelt, and hugged him tight. "No way, son. I'm here. I promise." Night fell, colder than usual. I stood on the porch, moonlight spilling over the field like a silver blanket over silence. The letter stayed in my hand, a pale yellow sheet, printed with stern words, "Eminent domain notice for public use." The cow theft had been a heavy blow, but before I could recover, Diane and Silver Oak hit harder, more openly. And then, when I thought it was just a legal fight, it went far beyond. One evening, as the family ate dinner around the kitchen table, Ben screamed tore through the air, "Dad, the chicken coop's on fire." I dropped my plate, ran to the backyard, heart pounding like it had burst. Black smoke billowed from the coop, flames licking the wooden roof like a ravenous beast. Clara stood nearby, spraying a fire extinguisher, but it was like spitting into a hurricane. Ben sobbed, pointing at the coop. "Daisy. Daisy's in there." Daisy, his golden hen he loved like a friend, was trapped in the blaze. I lunged forward, but the heat pushed me back, face stinging. Ethan ran up, pulling me. "Dad, it's too dangerous." Neighbors, hearing the cries, swarmed like bees from a hive. Evelyn Carter, white hair wild, hauled a bucket from the creek, yelling, "Pass the buckets, quick." We formed a line, pouring water, but the fire was ferocious. When it finally died, the coop was ash, and Daisy, with 6 other hens, was gone forever. Ben hugged me, sobbing, face smudged with soot. Clara pulled him close, eyes red, trying to be strong but voice shaking. "Matt, this isn't normal." Ethan stood silent, fist clenched, eyes like he'd punched through a wall. I knelt in the ashes, hands trembling, finding a warped gas can, its singed label still readable, Silver Oak Developments. Rage flared like the fire that burned the coop. This wasn't an accident, it was sabotage, and I knew who was behind it. I kept searching, determined not to let Diane slip away. In a ditch near the coop, I found a phone, case scorched but screen still lit. I unlocked it, heart pounding like a war drum. Inside was a gold mine. Emails between Diane and Mark Sullivan, Silver Oak's lead architect. One email read, "The coop will scare him. Burn it, but be careful." Another video, blurry but clear enough, showed someone pouring gas around the coop, gloved hands, a wrist flashing an orange watch, Diane's signature color. I gripped the phone, feeling like I'd grabbed her by the throat. I called Roy Tanner, and he came right over, leather jacket flapping under the moonlight. Watching the video, he smirked. She thought she was clever, but dumb enough to leave this. Roy took the phone to the police, requesting a warrant for Diane's emails. I didn't sit idle, installing security cameras across the ranch, from the barn, fields, to the porch. Every night sound, a snapping twig or whistling wind, had me up, flashlight in hand, ready to face anyone daring to step on Willow Creek. Inside, the house felt heavy as lead. Clara sat at the kitchen table, voice low but sharp. "Matt, this time it was chickens. Next it could be the house. Who are we fighting here?" Ethan, cleaning my grandfather's hunting rifle, cut in, "Mom, I'm not running. This is our home." But Ben, curled on the sofa, clutching his teddy bear, whispered, "Dad, Daisy died because of me, didn't she?" I knelt, hugging him tight. "No, son. The one who did this will pay." My heart ached, but I didn't let Ben see. I had to be strong for him, for Ethan, for Clara, for the legacy my grandfather built. That night, I lay awake, the fire's image haunting me like a fresh scar. I closed my eyes, seeing smoke, the chopper's hum, Diane's hateful glare, and Clara's hand gripping Ben's shoulder in helplessness. In the dead of night, I pictured Diane in her modern home, her cat Duchess curled in her lap, a smug smile as she thought she'd cornered me. But she was wrong. I had something she didn't expect. Evidence. My phone, those emails, security footage, recorded calls, wasn't just a device anymore. It was a weapon. I'd lived through war zones where patience and preparation meant survival. And this time, I wouldn't lose my land to a woman bent on turning the town into a luxury resort. Roy Tanner, ever calmer than me, called the next morning. "Police are investigating, Matt. Don't act rashly. It's got to be by the book." I nodded, saying yeah, but my heart burned. This wasn't personal anymore. It was about honor, my family's lifeblood. Willow Creek was my grandfather's legacy from 1875, land where every blade of grass, every plank, was soaked in my ancestors' sweat. I couldn't and wouldn't let Diane steal it with fake loss. And then, as if she read my mind, a new envelope appeared in the mailbox, not the usual red warning, but a glossy yellow sheet, printed in formal font, stamped with the HOA's seal like a summons from a castle. It read, "Mandatory HOA meeting, investigation of Harper Ranch compliance." I held the letter, smirking. Clara looked at me, worried. "Matt, you're really going?" Ethan, cleaning the rifle, nodded. "Dad's gotta go, Mom. Let's see your tricks." Ben, clutching his bear, whispered, "Dad, don't let them take the ranch, okay?" I ruffled his hair, voice firm. "No one's taking it, son." I knew Diane wanted to corner me, but if she wanted a face-off, I was ready. The meeting was at the Cedar Hollow Community Center, usually home to bake fairs and First Light Church sing-alongs. But that night, it felt like a courtroom. The room was packed. Neighbors, farmers, a few local reporters, and unfamiliar faces. Diane sat behind a long table, orange blazer blazing, flanked by 3 HOA members in matching blue shirts, looking like a bad sitcom cast. She tapped the mic, voice shrill. We begin by addressing Mr. Matt Harper's violations. The crowd murmured, some shaking their heads. I stood, voice clear. Before we start, let's be clear. Willow Creek is my family's legacy. We never signed with the HOA, so unless you've got proof, you've got no authority here. The crowd clapped. Evelyn Carter shouting, that's right, Matt. Diane smirked, pulling out a stack of papers. We believe your ranch falls under HOA boundaries due to a land annexation. If so, you owe 16 years of HOA fees, fines, and violation penalties, totaling $150,000. The room went silent. Clara gripped my hand under the table, face pale. Ethan whispered, what? For real? Diane grinned, like a cat with a mouse. You have 30 days to pay, she said, or we'll sue, including potential land forfeiture. I stood frozen, speechless, staring at her, rage boiling. Land annexation? Willow Creek was never HOA. This was a scam. Then, from the back, a deep voice called. I object. Heads turned. A man in a black suit, thick glasses, walked down the aisle, briefcase in hand. He handed me a card. Daniel Webb, land rights attorney. I represent Mr. Harper. The crowd buzzed, Diane squinting. Who are you? Daniel smiled, voice cold. I'm here to prove your so-called land annexation is completely fraudulent. The room erupted in cheers. Diane slammed the table. Silence. This isn't a courtroom. Daniel smirked. Not yet. But it will be. See you in court, Ms. Mitchell. He turned to me, whispering. A friend of Ethan's reached out. You've got strong allies, Matt. I was stunned, glancing at Ethan, who winked, a sly grin. Daniel pulled out a stack of documents, voice booming. Willow Creek's land records show no annexation in 2008. Someone forged papers, and I have proof. The crowd roared, some standing to clap. Troy Bennett, Cedar Hollow Gazette reporter, filmed, shouting, this is going viral, Matt. Diane's face flushed, screaming into the mic. This isn't over, but her voice faltered. I looked at her, seeing her tremble for the first time. As we left the meeting, neighbors patted my shoulder, Evelyn hugging me. Keep it up, Matt. We're here for you. But back home, I found a box on the porch, no label. Inside was a dead chicken. Ben screamed. Clara nearly collapsed. I covered the box, calling Roy immediately. He arrived, face hard as stone. They're playing dirty, Matt. This isn't just Diane anymore. The dead chicken in the box on Willow Creek's porch was a chilling warning from Diane Mitchell, but it only fueled my resolve. I knew I held the upper hand. Roy Tanner had turned the evidence over to the police, and they were closing in on Diane. But she, like a cunning old cat, wasn't done. Days after the HOA meeting, she escalated her dirty game, and I had to act before losing everything. That morning, 3 sleek black SUVs rolled into the ranch, carrying inspectors from Silver Oak Developments. They wore suits, polished shoes, clutching clipboards, snapping photos of the burned coop's ashes like the land was already theirs. I stood on the porch, hands clenched, watching them measure my grandfather's field. Then Diane appeared, orange blazer blazing like a torch, stepping from an SUV, sunglasses low like a Hollywood queen. She strutted to the porch, smug smile, handing me a paper. You have until Friday to leave, she said, voice sweet but sharp as a blade. Silver Oak will turn this into a modern neighborhood. Accept it, Harper. I didn't look at the paper. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opening the video from the fire. The blurry but clear image showed someone pouring gas around the coop, a wrist flashing an orange watch, Diane's trademark color. What are you talking about? I asked, voice icy, hitting play. Diane stared at the screen, her smile vanishing. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. That's not, she stammered, face pale as ash. A crowd of neighbors, gathered nearby, murmured. Evelyn Carter shouted, she's caught, Matt. At that moment, Roy Tanner stepped from the yard's corner, leather jacket flapping, handcuffs in hand. Diane Mitchell, he said, voice like thunder, you're under investigation for trespassing, arson, and fraud. Diane forced a laugh, voice shaky, you're wrong. I didn't do anything. But Daniel Webb, beside me, smirked, pulling out a stack of documents. We have emails between you and Mark Sullivan, encouraging forged papers to seize this land. That's a felony, Ms. Mitchell. Diane turned to the inspectors, screaming, "Say something. You know this land is part of the project." But they backed off, one muttering into a phone, "We were told it was legal." Roy stepped forward, cuffing Diane in one swift move. She shrieked, "I'm the HOA president. You can't arrest me." But the crowd erupted in cheers. Ben bounced, yelling, "She's going to jail." To jail. Clara hugged me, tears streaming. Ethan slapped my shoulder, grinning wide. "Dad, we did it." 2 days later, Silver Oak Development scrapped all plans. As Diane's emails and video spread, investors fled like rats from a sinking ship. Mark Sullivan, the lead architect, was arrested for bribery and fraud after police found evidence in his office. The HOA board dissolved like a sandcastle. One member, an old man with white hair, confessed at the final meeting, "We didn't know Diane was doing that dirty stuff. She signed fake papers herself." I sat in the meeting room, staring at Diane's empty chair, feeling like I'd won a long war. Back home, Ethan and I started rebuilding the chicken coop. We hammered nails, set frames, talking like buddies. "Dad," Ethan said, hammer in hand, "I think Grandpa would be proud." I nodded, heartwarm. "You bet, son." Clara brought out iced tea, Ben trailing, hugging a new chick from Evelyn. "I'm calling it Daisy New." He laughed, and for the first time in weeks, our whole family roared with laughter. But the real joy came when Cedar Hollow rallied. Troy Bennett wrote a piece in the Cedar Hollow Gazette, chronicling our saga from the barbecue police raid to the fire, and it spread across Texas. Neighbors stopped by with jam, pecan pie, even a quilt stitched with Willow Creek Freedom. Pastor Paul Grayson held a prayer service at First Light Church, giving thanks for Justice Won. Beating Diane Mitchell and Silver Oak Developments lifted a weight, but standing in Willow Creek's field, eyeing the rebuilt coop, I knew the story wasn't over. Cedar Hollow had backed me, from the barbecue police swarm to the coop fire, and now it was my turn to give back. The idea hit when Ben, holding his new chick Daisy New, looked up and asked, "Dad, can we do another barbecue?" "No cops this time." I laughed hard, ruffling his hair. "You got it, son. This one's gonna be bigger." The second barbecue wasn't just a celebration, it was a thank you to the community, a declaration that Willow Creek was home forever. I sent invitations across Cedar Hollow, family, neighbors, veterans, First Light Church, even those once scared of Diane. The morning of the party, the ranch glowed like a Texas fair. I dragged out the grill, fired up oak and pecan wood, cooking ribs with our spicy family sauce. Clara bustled in the kitchen, making beans, cornbread, and sweet tea. Ben tied balloons to the fence, his Willow Creek Freedom sign sparkling in the sun. Ethan helped set up a hay bale stage for Cousin Nate's guitar. The air pulsed with Texas spirit. Flags waved, with smoke drifted, laughter rolled over the hills. Guests flooded in, bringing chairs, blankets, and enough food for an army. Evelyn Carter arrived with peach cobbler, joking about Diane forcing her to repaint her birdhouse for non-compliant green. "Now I'm painting it red, white, and blue, like the Texas flag." She laughed. Troy Bennett, Cedar Hollow Gazette reporter, brought his camera, vowing a bigger story on our win. "Matt, this is inspiring the whole state." He winked. Pastor Paul Grayson led his church group, singing a hymn that hushed the crowd. Kids ran through hay bales, playing hide-and-seek, while adults square danced, boots muddy, beer mugs clinking. The community pitched in to rebuild the coop. Neighbors brought wood, nails, and new chicks. An old man, once afraid of Diane, gave me a white hen, saying, "For Ben, to forget Daisy." I was touched, hugging him tight. The new coop was bigger, sturdier, with a sign Ben painted, "Daisy New's Home." I looked at him, playing with the chicks, and felt my heart glow. This wasn't just a ranch, it was family, community. Mid-party, I climbed the stage, mic in hand, voice catching. "Thank you all. You stood with us, from the cops crashing the barbecue, through the fire, to when Diane and Silver Oak tried to steal our land. Willow Creek isn't just my home, it's our home. Texas's home, freedom's home." The crowd roared, some wiping tears. Evelyn shouted, "That's right, Matt. No one touches this land." I looked at Clara, Ethan, and Ben, pride surging. "This is our victory," I said, "and I swear I'll always fight to protect Cedar Hollow." The party stretched into night, Nate playing a country ballad as small fireworks lit the sky from the field. Troy filmed, posting online, and his article went viral, spreading Willow Creek's story across Texas. The Cedar Hollow mayor stopped by, promising to curb HOA power so no one endures what we did. Matt, you're the town's pride, he said, shaking my hand. As the party wound down, Ben tugged my hand, pointing to the fence. Dad, I want to put up a new sign, Liberty Ranch. I laughed hard, hoisting him onto my shoulder. Great idea, son. This'll be Liberty Ranch, where freedom stands tall. Clara hugged me, Ethan slapped my shoulder, and under the moonlight, I felt my grandfather's spirit smiling. After the second barbecue, as Cedar Hollow reveled in laughter, country music, and rib smoke, I felt a rare peace. Diane Mitchell was behind bars, Silver Oak Developments was dust, and the community had made our victory a Texas symbol of freedom. But standing on the porch, iced tea in hand, I knew the real treasure wasn't beating Diane. It was the family and community standing strong with me. Life at Liberty Ranch now buzzes with energy. Clara turned a garden corner into a green oasis, growing tomatoes, beans, and wildflowers, teaching Cedar Hollow kids to plant. The children, Ben included, raced through the yard, laughing as they learned to sow seeds. Ben, now a chicken expert, tends the new coop with Daisy New and her chick friends, naming them Little Freedom, Thunder, and Storm. He often runs to the coop, shouting, Dad, I'm gonna raise 100. I grin, ruffling his hair, pride swelling. Ethan, after years away in the Marines, chose to stay. He helps me fix the barn, plant wheat, and even learn Grandpa's rib recipe. One evening, on the porch, he said, Dad, I thought fighting was for battlefields. But defending Liberty Ranch, that's the real war. I slapped his shoulder, silent, knowing Grandpa was smiling somewhere. Cedar Hollow keeps surprising me. Evelyn Carter drops off peach jam, joking about Diane's birdhouse bullying. Troy Bennett sent a copy of the Cedar Hollow Gazette, now reprinted statewide, headlined, Liberty Ranch, where freedom won. Pastor Paul Grayson held a prayer service at First Light Church, thanking for justice and unity. Neighbors visit with pecan pie, quilts, and simple, warm words. An old man, once cowed by Diane, said, Matt, you reminded me Texas is where we fight for what's right. One afternoon, I got a letter from a land rights group, inviting me to share Liberty Ranch's story to help other farmers fight schemes like Silver Oaks. I folded the letter, set it on the table, feeling my grandfather's mission alive in me. Walking to the field, I stopped at a new sign Ben made, Liberty Ranch, Home of Freedom. The letters were sloppy, but to me, it was more beautiful than any masterpiece. As moonlight bathes Liberty Ranch, I stand on the porch, Clara beside me, hands clasped. Ethan strums a soft country tune on his guitar. Ben runs up, hugging my leg, asking, Dad, this is Liberty Ranch, right? No one can take it anymore, can they? I kneel, looking in his eyes, voice steady. That's right, son. This is home, and it's ours forever. The story of Matt Harper and the fight to save Liberty Ranch in Cedar Hollow, Texas, mirrors real issues in American life today, especially clashes between individual rights and overreach by groups like homeowners associations, HOAs, plus threats from big real estate firms. Diane Mitchell's abuse of HOA power, destroying fences, reporting dust, calling cops on a barbecue, reflects how some U.S. HOAs overstep, pressuring residents for personal or commercial gain. The Coop Fire and Eminent Domain letter from Silver Oak Developments echo how corporations use legal tricks or sabotage to seize land, especially in rural areas like Texas, where family heritage and property face urban sprawl's threat. Cedar Hollow's unity, from Evelyn's peach cobbler to Troy's viral reporting, shows the power of community against injustice, a core American value, where collective movements often shape justice. Protect your rights with knowledge and unity, like Matt did by keeping evidence and enlisting Daniel Webb to expose forged papers. In modern life, you may face HOAs or big firms trying to force you out. Study land laws, save documents, and seek legal help, as Matt did with Daniel. Above all, build community ties, like how Cedar Hollow backed Matt with the second barbecue and the Willow Creek Freedom Quilt. In America, where individuals and communities shape society, unity and grit, like the Harpers defending Liberty Ranch, are key to preserving values and heritage against outside pressure. Subscribe to the channel to follow the journey of defending freedom at Liberty Ranch and join us in fighting injustices like Diane Mitchell. Thanks for standing with the Harper family. See you in the next video.